What's up, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Between the Cons. My name is Chris, and with me today, I've got the Wonder Twins.
Hey, let's go. Okay.
The Wonder Lil Johns. And we have another special guest today. We have our first Meet the Geek Special Geek, Bridget Nelson.
Woo!
Who is...
Can I say hi?
Yes, you can.
Oh, hi. Hi.
I was going to comment on how
here.
silent you were. You were making an awkward silence.
Can you let me out of this closet, please, so I can do the interview?
Just to prove this is not Chris's mom, this is actually Bridget Nelson we have here. So
it is officially not my mom. I can attest to that. But for those of
what's going on?
For those of you that might be unfamiliar with the name Bridget Nelson, you might know the names Mr. B Natural, Nuvina, Lisa Loeb, and Mike Nelson, who is the real-life husband of Bridget Nelson.
I have a very important job of being Mrs. Michael J. Nelson.
Exactly.
Yes. All of those are characters and real-life characters, all spawned from Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yay.
And RiffTrax.
Yay.
So what we're going to do is here in just a second, we're going to just ask Bridget 1,000 different questions, try and get as many as we can into one of these quick little episodes so you guys can get to know Bridget a little bit better. But all of that being said, let's jump right into Meet the Geek.
Allow me to break the ice.
Hey everyone.
I'm shaking your hand too long. Wow, this is awesome.
All right, like I said, Bridget Nelson on the show, actress and writer for the Peabody Award-winning Mystery Science Theater 3000 and RiffTrax, RiffTrax.com.
.com.
Yeah, nailed it.
But essentially just kind of diving into it, for those of you the uninitiated out there, Mystery Science Theater 3000 was a show started in 1988 in the little city of Minneapolis, just a little kind of, almost just kind of a cable access.
Well, get it
show.
right. Eden Prairie.
Eden Prairie, my apologies. Eden Prairie.
Mm-hmm.
Just this little show, and it grew into this national phenomenon. Lasted from 1988 to 1999, ended up on Comedy Central, ended up on Sci-Fi Channel, and essentially the premise of the show, a man and two robots blasted into space and forced to watch bad movies. That's as basic as it gets. So,
which sounds a lot worse than it actually is. It's really great.
It's a wonderful show. It really sculpted our adolescent humor and kind of where we find ourselves today. So a fantastic show.
And if you can just imagine yourself just sitting in a theater watching a terrible movie and not knowing how you're going to survive it, and then you have somebody as great as Bridget Nelson sitting next to you, helping you through this awful movie.
I would be asking you to stop chomping your popcorn so loudly, but I might say some jokes too.
Yes,
exactly.
Quit playing Candy Crush Saga, Robert.
Yeah.
The best part, I think the best part about it is everybody watches like terrible B movies or even just terrible movies, Twilight, and you talk trash about them. Like if you're watching them with your friends, you just talk trash. And I think that was what made the show so relatable for everyone. Is a great majority of the episodes were like these really terrible B movies that surprisingly my wife actually enjoys the movies more than the Mystery Science Theater. Like riffs.
Yeah, that seems to be the problem sometimes.
But
I think an interesting thing right off the bat is that whole term B movie. Like people your age say that, and yet it really never was a thing in your lives like it was, or mine. That was kind of over with by the time I was a kid, where something would be the B movie. There was the A movies, then there was B movies that everyone knew weren't the quality movies. but you just went to them anyway. But everyone knows what a B movie is referring to, but it really was a thing at a time. The A and the B, like the flip side of the hit.
Yeah, because theaters only showed 2 movies at a time back then.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the drive-in only showed 2 movies.
Right.
Which, fun fact, the first time I ever remember seeing an episode of Mystery Science Theater was at a drive-in.
No way, that would be so fun.
Yeah.
What a great way to see the show. What episode was it?
Oh, I don't even remember. I remember there was
You're
a
lying.
giant.
You're lying.
I remember there was a giant bug, and that was all I remember. I was like 10.
Oh,
maybe
gosh,
the Deadly Mantis or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the Deadly Mantis. There were so many. Maybe
Giant
It Conquered
bugs.
the World. That was my favorite. Not my favorite, but I liked that. I liked Beverly Garland, the woman in it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And there were so many episodes like that where you had, y'all did get, and, of course, I know a lot of it was, from how it's been described, at least, by Frank and others, the box of movies you would get to sift through.
Right.
You found some gems, and a lot of them contained bugs crawling.
Oh, my gosh. They were obsessed with that after the war, that there was going to be big bugs. Why that? Why bugs?
Why bugs? I just want you to know that I'm looking through all the titles to see if any of them jump out at me.
As being big bugs?
No, as the one that I saw.
Oh, gotcha. I see. Oh, I see.
Because now it's going to bother me for the rest of the episode.
I know it.
I know. Well, see, and that leads really well into, after Mystery Science Theater 3000 ended its run, and what we'd really like to talk about as well some more today with Bridget is this awesome thing happened where the show really didn't end. It actually, in some ways, the spiritual successor to it became RiffTrax, which started, I believe it started in 2006. Was that correct?
I think so. Maybe a touch earlier. Mike did. I think he did Roadhouse, and then a couple others just by himself. But 80 or 06 is when we loaded up the truck and moved to San Diego as a family, and so that would be kind of the official beginning of it.
And here, 10 years later, it's incredible to even think about how big a phenomenon RiffTrax has become.
Oh, that's so nice of you to say. Big phenomenon. That's awesome. It is.
Essentially, it's like do-it-yourself MST3k. Basically, there are a few different versions. You either can purchase a backing track for a popular movie because rights are really expensive. So, but if you get a backing track for Twilight or Captain America or any number of movies, and put it to the movie and have fun. They also recently come out with, streaming, video on demand where the track is synced with, typically a very bad public domain film or something else of that nature. So it's basically just a fantastic way to delve into tons of different films, different riffing styles, and all sorts of great things there.
It really is, and it's keeping up. Not that I am savvy on technology, but from what my sources tell me, it's keeping up with what people can do, and even ahead of its time. Our player that synced things up, that's the first thing of its kind. That's not around. So it's pretty neat. As I said, that's what my sources tell me. Mike Nelson.
From what the internet says.
My source that lives in the basement. Yes.
Yes. Well, I think one of the first RiffTrax we ever watched, which is so crazy to think about because we were diehard MST3k fans, and the first RiffTrax, we really didn't know a lot about RiffTrax while we were in college, and then whenever we met the Christopher Michael Laney, who were speaking with now.
Yes.
He introduced us to RiffTrax, and we watched. What did we watch?
Twilight.
We watched Twilight.
Yeah, it was Twilight.
And that had to have been, what was it, 2008?
Yeah, it would have been right around that time period.
And I kind of feel like that's really when it kind of started to really explode because
you just needed the right terrible movie.
You're right. And that movie, okay, my favorite is when what's his toes just shows up in her room and he goes, what's a math assignment? That's fine. But I think it took off because girls that had been so into Twilight were suddenly a slightly bit older and teenagers and just kind of could have a sense of humor about their obsession with it. It would just hit really when the guys decided to riff that. I think it hit at a really great time, technology wise, and just the age of that movie. So that was a really exciting time where we thought, hey, we might make it. We might not have to stop doing this, you know?
Absolutely, definitely.
I mean, and even from RiffTrax has hit on so many different areas of success, not only from a commercial success and entertainment success, but from a Kickstarter success as well. It's incredible to think that you guys have had. I mean, I think your fifth Kickstarter campaign started last Tuesday from when this episode aired, which would be February 21st.
Yes.
And just to think, and you're already on track to reach your goal. You've had. Let's just go ahead and say.
Thanks for telling me that.
Good to know.
You've lived to fight another day. I mean,
no, you're not losing your house this year, Bridget. You're not.
I know it. I've worked so hard, but I think that again they've done a nice job of using that what do you call that resource to everyone's advantage, because it's really fun. It's not like they're asking for like these astronomical amount. It's everyone sees how it's working to get the movies out to people, and also people getting fun stuff out of it themselves. It's this really cool fan and provider, if you will, comedy content provider kind of merged, where everyone's kind of in it together. It's really kind of cool.
It's
absolutely,
really
and
incredible.
I mean, just from our own personal experience, we originally met. We're the nutty twins at the MST3k.
I know, it was so fun.
Yes, it was. It was so fun, and
we never did meet up with those girls from Wisconsin.
We did. Never worked out.
Humor.
I know they swiped left on us. I don't know why.
It's just so horrible. But yeah. Not that anybody would ever swipe right, but anyway.
It was very exciting. We were we really thought that we were going to have our first RiffTrax love connection, and shucks. All right.
Yeah, it's but I mean, that's one thing that we stay so busy with our business. Computer repair is our profession, so we're actually able to go to the RiffTrax show, go to Minneapolis at a very affordable cost relative to what we received in return, and y'all just went all out with it. So fan service is like number one with RiffTrax. So you're absolutely right. The Kickstarter definitely over delivers.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so
definitely
glad. So you liked the meatballs, is what you're saying?
Yes, the meatballs were fantastic. I think they had some little bacon wrap things there too. They're pretty great. So absolutely, it was definitely no disappointments.
And
absolutely.
you liked Minneapolis. You liked our city.
Yes. It was a great place. We got to actually pose with the Mary Tyler Moore statue, and
it's creepy though. Isn't it kind of creepy? They made like every tooth. I don't like it. She looks like I don't like it.
I mean, do you think maybe we should have like a statue fight between the Scary Lucy statue in New York and the Mary Tyler Moore statue in Minneapolis?
That's a great idea.
It
they're
would
both
be
terrifying.
I raise you both every statue in New Orleans.
Well, Miss Bridget, where did your initial interest in comedy come from? Like, did you ever see comedy as like a career choice for you? Or like, how did you end up in comedy?
Oh my gosh. That question, before I begin, I have a preface. So once I was up in, oh goodness, what was it called? Maybe I was in Bemidji, and there was this bar that I was at called the Bottoms Up, and I kind of did my set, and it was pretty bad. And this guy said to me, "Why are you a comedian?" No, I get asked why I'm a comedian a lot. No, if your question is, yes, I always thought about comedy, and I always loved it. Like when my friends and I would play like beauty pageant, I would always do stand-up comedy as my talent, like when we would do backyard pageants. And I think I used to do Elaine Boozler routine about hey, cab drivers are so young, and it's something like stuff that I had no business doing, like jokes about cab drivers in New York and things like that. And so I think it was Elaine Boozler that I saw. And would just copy her stuff. But yeah, and my dad and mom owned a bar, and on Tuesdays, I think, it was Thursday, and then Tuesdays was ladies' night. Wednesday was like 50s night, and one of those nights, my dad would do some stand-up comedy and then introduce the, like the bands, or like there was like an amateur band night or something. But my dad would do stand-up, and so I always was aware of comedy and wanting to be funny, and considered myself kind of a bon vivant. But then it goes away, and then it came back.
I mean, I feel like from at least, our high school years doing, musical theater and things like that, there's something addictive about being on stage and making people laugh. Like, there's just something you just like almost, you feed off the energy of the crowd. So there's just something energizing. It almost just takes you to another place. So I could definitely understand where comedy comes in. It's just a feeling unlike any other, really, getting to perform.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it sounds ridiculous. It's fun to have fun, making people have fun, but it is, and it's, for me, it was pretty therapeutic as well. I would have to say that most of my stand-up was about my family and my life, and once I kind of got a little more emotionally healthy, I didn't feel the need to go and talk to strangers in bars as much. But
absolutely, definitely. Well, give us a little bit of background, I guess, for the summary of how did you end up on MST3k? Like, what is the backstory there? That's probably going to be somewhat of a not the most simple answer there, but how did you end up working on the show?
Well, when a man and a woman love each other very much,
stork, right? It's a stork, right?
It was a stork. So Mike and I were dating. I guess you would call it dating. We would go to like open stage nights all the time, and Mike and I, so I'd see him like, every night of the week at these open stages, and Frank was there, and Frank and I were buddies, and Frank didn't have a license, so I would pick him up and drive him, and so Frank and I were buddies, and then he thought Mike was really funny, and we were just kind of, like in high school, almost like a class, going through it all together, and I think that they hired Mike to be a typist. I think I told Joel or Josh once, like, hey, my boyfriend Mike's a really good typist. You should ask him to type for you guys, or something like that. And then he started his deal. And then I was just around so much that when it started, I think they were going to hire some more writers, and I think that I was definitely someone that they're like, well, hey, how about Bridget? And then they got a group of people that they auditioned, and then they picked me. So I think I was, in the running, but then they did due diligence, auditioned people. And I had been around it enough that I kind of understood probably what not to do. I don't think it was that I was so much more funny than anybody else. I just kind of already knew some of the things that you shouldn't be doing in a script. So I would say I kind of backed into it. Plus, I came with Mike, it was 2 for 1. We were married then.
Absolutely.
By then. By the time I started writing, we were already married. We got married in 89. It says 90 all over the internet, but it's really actually 89.
Wow. I'm going to write that down. And the only people that are actually going to know the truth are the ones listening to this podcast. We will never reveal it to anybody.
Yes, the truth, the very secret and special truth of October 1989.
It was the October of 89. I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm sure that's what he meant in that we're just mishearing it all these years. So
right.
And whenever you had MST3k, because it ran for, I guess it ran for about 11 years, and you really started writing. I mean, the internet says around season 4, but you'd kind of been involved before then. Whenever the show started, coming to its kind of closing, right around 99.
Yeah.
What did you primarily focus on after the show ended?
By that point, I had children. We had a growing family, and I went into youth ministry for the most part. After that, Mike was writing Death Rat and Movie Mega Cheese and his other book. Then he wrote some other ones that people don't know as much about. These really funny kind of. I think it's called. What is one called? Funny Cuckoo, like Cuckoo Butter kind of a name. What is it called? I can't remember. He's got 3 of them. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about, and I cannot think of the name of it myself because they're hilarious.
They're really funny, and it was a challenge for him to write because they had those weird images. He had to write a specific amount of words. It had to fit exactly in the space that they had. It was this really weird challenge. So he was uniquely positioned. But that's about him. What about me? Okay. So yeah, I started doing youth ministry, and while he was writing books at home, I started kind of just doing that. So like youth camps and like doing the I don't know, have you ever been to church camp? Doing the program stuff, the funny stuff, the goofy around stuff, and then I would also do a little speaking. So that's what I mostly did.
Well, and I think us and Chris can all kind of relate to that because from that time period of like 99 to 06, all of us were in high school.
Okay.
I mean, like the early 2000s were a prime time for contemporary Christian music, and just all things youth camp. Just, I mean, it was a great time to be in youth ministry.
It really was. It was kind of funny. Like I got to be in the comedy boom, and then I was in the youth. I mean, it just, the timing was perfect for me, and to take advantage of young people who liked the show.
How many times were you asked during that period of time, is Creed a Christian band?
Oh my gosh.
Should I listen to Creed? Yes, I know. What do you think? Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Yes.
That was the youth minister's ubiquitous question of the early 2000s. Creed is a Christian band. I can listen to it, but
exactly. And then there was some at one point. What is it where they just scream? What do you call that? Screamo? Christian stuff?
Yeah.
Yes.
Then that was a huge deal. Should they be doing this? And I don't know. Like, let them do something that annoys their parents, please. Just leave.
As long as they're not annoying me and just their parents.
Yes, just let it go. But the funny thing about that is not that many people really knew the show. It wasn't any girls, that's for sure. So it always appealed to a certain group of boys, which was helpful because they were often the kids that were sitting in the back, that were maybe in the trench coats, that you wanted to be pulling in. So I had a nice, I feel I was uniquely positioned for probably 50 people over those years that really, that I got to really speak into their lives.
We appreciate the honesty in that number.
Yeah, I mean, but 50-50, but when I really think back, like, where I feel like a kid was interested in the fact that I was a Christian and I was also in this comedy thing. But I was also a little bit like their mom, so it was kind of creepy. It was a very odd position to be in. But that, like, you could do this and not, you don't have to be a Christian comedian or a Christian this. You can be a Christian in this industry. And I felt like that was, evolved, if you will, my understanding of that during that time.
I've got a question for you, Bridget.
Okay. Not a math.
So obviously, Mystery Science Theater 3000, pretty nerdy, pretty safe to say, pretty heavily steeped in nerd culture.
What are you saying? I have not heard these things.
I think you might be deaf then.
Okay.
So with that, I mean, I feel like it takes a very special kind of nerd to be involved with making that at all. So that being said, what kind of entertainment, pop culture, nerd, sci-fi culture things that are kind of out now are the things that you enjoy?
You are going to be so disappointed in me as a nerd.
I am.
Yes, I'm not, nor have I ever been a nerd.
Oh,
That's okay. That's okay.
I know. I don't think anyone would consider me a nerd.
Why do you say that?
Because I didn't watch any stuff, any Star Wars, any Star Trek, any.
Time out. Have you seen Star Wars? To this day, have you? Yes or no? Have you seen the original Star Wars trilogy?
I refuse to answer that question.
All right, folks, that's everything we have today. Thank you so much. Wow, that's crazy.
If you're interested in the fact that, yes, I wrote on this nerdy show that turned out to be like what nerds, but I was not a nerd. Like, I was like a popular girl in high school.
Well, in that case, I've got a bone to pick.
Is this making you hate me?
No, I actually think I find that incredibly interesting because
I don't think anyone would ever consider me a nerd.
Yeah, and not to say that it's a requirement to be a nerd to become famous for being a nerd. But I think it's really interesting that it's not even just like nerdy sci-fi things that RiffTrax and Mystery Science Theater kind of birthed from, but it is like the nerdiest of all of those things. So I find it really, but it makes total sense. I mean, you can totally, as a like quote third party, being a comedian is really the only, or being funny, not even necessarily a comedian, is the only real criteria to make it work.
Right.
So that's just really interesting to me.
Yeah, it is too, and I have to say it's kind of my hidden shame that I am not really immersed in nerd culture at all, and that when I was a kid I wanted to. Okay, I'll tell you when. No, I can't. I can't tell you my nerd secrets. My
my nerd secrets.
I can't tell you my nerd secrets. But it is interesting that the show is so associated with which people will say would be like nerds. Like when I went to my high school reunion, the nerds were like, Bridget! And they were, But here's the interesting thing is I had kind of some learning disabilities. And so I was always in classes with not even nerds, but like burnouts and that's what we called.
And you're kind of like not motivated people.
Yes, the not motivated people, stoners and burnouts and some of the, like jocks and things. So I was often academically in the other crowd, definitely.
Sure.
And I was funny, I guess, and so I could make those people laugh, and so I had a certain subculture that I knew well, and so I knew it all. But then I would go to the game on Friday night, and I would hang out with the popular girls, and go to homecoming and do all the stuff that we make fun of. But I think that helped me make fun of things from the inside.
From the inside,
exactly. And I mean, two quick points. Mike clearly has more than enough nerdiness for both of you, considering he cross-dressed as Captain Janeway from Star Trek. I mean, he probably made some teen boys feel very weird feelings. I mean, it just happened. So I think that more than atones for your lack of nerdiness. That one act is an atoning for the entire past years of it.
Speak for yourself.
But yeah, like Mike was in band, and he did in theater, and he did more of the traditional stuff.
Yeah.
And I was I was on the track team and the cross country team and that kind of stuff.
I played football and was senior class president.
Yeah.
But I was also a huge nerd.
And you're an Eagle Scout.
David-
Okay, I guess Eagle Scout in.
Yeah, Eagle Scout is a huge nerd.
Oh, that's
yeah.
cool. No, but that's cool because that's not easy to do.
It's
that's
not.
a lot of work.
It's
That
true.
is a lot of work. And okay, how old are you guys?
I'm 29.
I'm 29.
Okay,
You guys are the same age.
We are.
Are you guys finding that out today, Robert and Madison?
Yeah,
have that in common.
I'm shocked.
Yeah,
totally.
I'm 27. They're 29.
Okay, well, I don't think that nerds existed in the same way as they did for
It's
you guys.
very
Like,
true. Yeah.
Nerds were there was like only 1 or 2 nerds per class.
Right. You had like
And-
the Rick Moranis nerds.
Yeah. There just wasn't there wasn't the subculture for it. Everybody was watched the same stuff, and there was Star Trek, but all the boys liked Star Trek, you know. And maybe some people got obsessed with it, but they didn't talk about it, and there was no forums and things for it to be out there. So it was that I think nerd culture evolved, and then when our show kind of hit, when Mystery Science Theater hit, it was just a perfect brew for people to glob onto it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that just as well, kind of when you're talking about you're kind of riffing from the inside, you know, the outsider stuff from the inside. That really, because recently you joined the RiffTrax crew. You and Mary Jo jumped back in with RiffTrax, and you take these hilarious takes on all of these kind of 50s and 60s perfectionist life in the suburbs, you know, that House of the Future. Those are two, we watched those in preparation for this. So it's interesting.
It made me never want to get a Redbook subscription.
Okay, so so you watched Life in the Suburbs. Okay, that was our first one.
Those movies kind of emulate that so much, that kind of that idealistic suburban housewife perfect family thing. So it's interesting, you can kind of look into that, and you have a different kind of respect, or kind of different, you kind of know how it is, and it's interesting.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would say that I definitely had an affinity for that. I when I was young, I thought, well, that's probably what I will do. I probably will have a nice house and a husband that goes off to the office, and my kids will be on the football team, and then my life just went a whole different direction. So that was definitely something I thought, oh yeah, that's probably what'll happen to me. Life in the Suburbs was the first one that we wrote. Actually, I wrote that myself, the whole thing, and then
let's be honest, Connor and Sean just would not get it. You know, they just couldn't. They couldn't handle. They just wouldn't get it. I mean, they wouldn't. So it takes a woman's time.
Yeah, it's a different thing. So when I decided I was going to be doing, and this might be something you're interested in, going to do RiffTrax, there was like, hey, this opportunity is coming. You can do this now. Just the way the company was going, and then moved back to Minneapolis, and I wrote it in hopes of like, I'll figure out who I'm going to riff this with. And then, Mary Jo moved back from Austin, Texas, and it just was the right thing. So, hey, Mary Jo, do you want to do these? I have this one written, and then let's write some other ones together, and we'll go into the recording booth and see what happens. And maybe we'll put them on the site. Maybe we won't, but they really turned out. I mean, I was really proud of them. So.
I think it's hilarious. And this is probably going to make the guys jealous, but I don't like saying this, but I'm going to say it. I like y'all's material better than the guys' material.
Oh, snap.
Goodness. Oh, that's so nice of you.
I mean, y'all's material, I just relate to it so well as a suburban housewife.
Oh no!
In our postmodern society, if you want to be a suburban housewife while you're a single man living in Alabama, you certainly can very well be a
You be the best suburban housewife you possibly can.
Exactly.
Is that because your name is Madison?
Or Robert?
Well, that's very nice of you. It is a different style. It is what I would say. It's just a different that we can get away with. I think in some ways.
Well, and do you guys really crack each other up when you're doing these riffs? Because I love hearing you guys laughing after the riff. Like, does that happen naturally? Are you guys cracking each other up all the time while you're producing these?
Yes, I would say we laugh a lot. Mary Jo, is there anybody with a better laugh than Mary Jo Peele?
No.
I'm so jealous of it. I have this horrible kind of honk, and she's just got this bawdy laugh, and to make her laugh makes your day. It just does. And so, yeah, we crack each other up a lot.
Oh my gosh. What is the production difference kind of between whenever, because I know you said you wrote Life in the Suburbs all on your own and just sat down and did it. I mean, between the writing and production process of MST3k and RiffTrax, what is the time difference? Like, MST3k took 1 to 2 weeks, script to production in a lot of cases. With RiffTrax, kind of go through the production process with that.
Oh, okay. Well, so we'll kind of split it up, the script, if it's long, we'll do it in chunks. Like you take 10, I'll take 10, and I'll take 10, you take 10, go back and forth like that. If it's a short, we'll just chunk it in half, and I'll take the first half, she'll take the second, or whatever. And then we take a couple weeks. We're not on a big release schedule. We're at our leisure for our releases. So we take our time. But I would say it takes, let's say it's 10 minutes. It takes me all week to write the 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
A couple minutes a day. Sometimes you spend an hour on one joke, or like half a day on a couple jokes. They just don't come. And plus, I'm a terrible typist, slow, and I make a ton of keystroke errors, so everything takes me doubly as long.
I hear that Mike is a really good typist. So.
I do too. I mean,
he is so gifted as a typist.
Is that the only reason you married Mike, was for his typing skills?
It is. I just wanted a man who could type and send a good memo, and
send a good memo.
Yes. Okay, girlfriends. What are we going to talk about?
Really, truly, what kind of projects do you have coming up, both personally and professionally? Can you share any details, kind of what you have coming up?
That's the nice way of saying no.
I have. Well, right now I am in the middle of writing. I am in the middle of writing a long movie for release for RiffTrax, like an hour and a half long movie that we did on Mystery Science Theater, that Mary Jo and I are doing our own version of. And this is the longest thing we've written, and so it's taken me a long time. So that is what I'm working on, and
nice.
I'm just doing more. I'm just doing more RiffTrax. I speak at some marriage seminars, so I have to always be writing those things. And that's always really
I'm
hard.
sorry, that's not funny. I just imagined you speaking at marriage seminars like you do on RiffTrax. It's like you get two couples to stand up and tell you about themselves, and then you just make fun of them to their face.
You know what? That would be a great idea. That would be a really good idea. Like they could do a therapy session, just like they talk about their feelings, and I could riff on their feelings.
Man. I know that's totally not what you do at marriage, or I hope that's not what you do. Actually, I hope that is what you do at marriage seminars. We're gonna bring this right back around. You need to start doing that. I want to come to that when that happens.
Okay. That would be great. No, but that's fun. They're fun to do. It's kind of like I'm just a member of a team that does. It's kind of like camp for couples.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm not like an expert or anything like that.
There's one before we were starting to kind of wind things down, but there's a couple of points I wanted to hit before we do. One thing is, it's interesting with your social media, and I guess Mike's to an extent, in terms of your joke telling styles, in terms of the things you find funny, kind of the ways you present yourself. You take a very apolitical style and a relatively clean style with it, which is kind of unusual in modern culture, especially social media for comedians. Because a lot of times it's very politically charged and it's very, blue. So what's your kind of philosophy behind the way you do comedy, and in terms of how you present yourselves on social media and RiffTrax and that sort of thing?
Right. Well, after the bitter defeat of my father in the 1974 mayoral race of Sauk Rapids, Minnesota, I turned away from politics. I was very mad.
Good deal.
And I really was very upset. My father was going to run, right? He was running for mayor. He was the incumbent, Wally Jones. He was the incumbent, and he was ahead in the polls. And then his friend, Bruno
Air
Grunson,
quotes.
yes, decided to run, splitting his vote. And the other incumbent, if you were the incumbent? Yes, so then Ben Grotzik won the 74. It was bitter, and I said, I'm out of politics after that.
I love that.
Good
That was
deal.
such
Good
a
deal.
dramatic answer to that. It was perfect.
It was a very perfect thing.
I thought we were setting ourselves up for a joke and not a real story. It was awesome.
That was ripped from the pages of my childhood. It was a terrible
After the
defeat.
mayoral election in 1974, I
This could be
signed
a
away
Law and Order
politics for
episode about
life.
it now.
I
mean-
stumped for my father. We made the signs in our garage. They were spray painted signs. I'm pounding on the desk. Can you hear me? I'm so impassioned.
I can.
I have
That's
one
awesome.
thumb out like Bill Clinton, and I am talking to you right now. Anyway,
Oh, that's so great.
yes, no, he did. It was bitter and humiliating. So no, but that's it. But as far as the dirty stuff, Mary Jo and I are coming out with a whole line of blue RiffTrax. No, I'm kidding.
You got all these guys, hopes up. I mean, clearly just torpedoed it, man. Man.
When I said that, Mary Jo and Bridget After Hours. We, you know what? It's. I think MST's been the same way. I think the guys are the same. Where there's a little bawdiness here or there, kind of almost like old time. Occasionally if it's there, you make the joke. But for the most part, if you started to go dirty, there would be no end to it because there's so many jokes, and you just can't sustain that. It just becomes something completely different.
Yeah, and you guys do such a great job without it. It's not even necessary.
Thanks. I mean, sometimes we'll say something kind of naughty, but but it's
naughty.
It's like
heard
a
it.
wink and a nod.
Yeah, it's naughty in the way that like Abbott and Costello are naughty. Like it's
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah. I am a middle-aged woman. I mean, it's a little unbecoming at a certain point. I mean, again, I still occasionally have to make a fart joke, and I'm people's mother. You know what I mean? It's when you think about that, I have grown adult sons, and I'm out here. The thing that I'm doing is so. If I got dirty, I think that would be pretty bad.
I mean, I'm just waiting for the Bob Saget RiffTrax presents. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
He's totally like Danny Tanner, right, guys? I mean, he's like the cleanest comedian out there.
No,
I mean,
no.
no. I mean, you mean you're not going to riff the Aristocrats? I mean, we're not doing that one.
Oh my
We're not doing
gosh.
We will not be riffing 50 Shades of Grey anytime soon. Just say that.
Good.
I think it would be hilarious to riff 50 Shades of Grey, but you would have to get the rights to the movie and just blur the screen the whole time.
Yeah.
And the whole riff is just like you guys just making noise so no one actually has to sit through the torture of listening to anything that happens.
Oh, it's so gross. Hey, I just thought of a thing that I'm a nerd about.
Yay!
Oh.
Let's hear
But
it.
it's not going to be appealing to you guys in the least.
Try me.
Okay, so
Challenge accepted.
I like to read show business biographies, and
Yeah, you're right,
I went
not
ahead
interested.
and took and you know what? You're a bad host.
That's what I've been saying. I
my
mean,
goodness. It has relevance to that movie we were just talking about, that bad movie with that awful girl in it. What's her face? Dakota.
That's
Anyway.
not my brand of nerd.
Dakota Johnson.
Dakota Johnson. So she's Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith's daughter, right?
Yeah.
Did you know that? Okay. And her grandma is Tippi Hedren from The Birds.
What?
Interesting.
Yeah. So her mom, Tippi Hedren from the Birds, grew up in my same neighborhood here in Minneapolis that I live in now. Anyway, yeah. So it was Tippi Hedren, who Alfred Hitchcock, had that weird obsession with, and then her daughter was Melanie Griffith, and then Melanie Griffith had a baby because she loved a man very, very much, and she and that girl is in that movie. So that's kind of nerdy that I know that.
That's impressive, actually.
It is very much
really,
so.
truly, we talk about movies a lot on the podcast, and I've got to share a secret with you, Miss Bridget.
Yeah.
I sometimes turn it on TCM, and I like it sometimes.
And sometimes you like, I know, yeah. I'm a big TCM. But I follow people on Twitter while they're watching movies on TCM.
No, I'll just tell you right now. My wife and I have Netflix. We also have the DVDs, which I know of 0 other people that subscribe to the DVDs through Netflix. And
wow, you still get the DVDs. Okay.
Yeah, the reason being is because we've had the DVDs for about 7 months.
Uh-huh.
And we have never gotten a movie that was made more recent than 1965.
Wow, you mean through the mail?
Yeah,
because you can't stream anything. There's like 20 movies.
Yeah, she loves those movies. Like, she was downstairs watching, oh man, I can't even think. She's watching some movie from 1948 about a mental hospital. I can't remember what it is.
Oh, Snake Pit.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But she like, when I said earlier that she legitimately likes the movies that you guys riffed on in Mystery Science Theater, that was not a joke. Like, she legitimately likes those movies. And it's crazy to me because it's like, I want to make fun of these movies like a good person, and you just want to watch it and torture me and tell me to be quiet.
She should watch The Amazing Mr. X that Mary Jo and I released recently. It's right in her wheelhouse. It's actually a pretty good movie, and it's got Hollywood actor Richard Carlson in it, who was in a ton of Mystery Science Theaters, and it has the guy who did the cinematography won an Academy Award for, I can't remember something, but all sorts of it's got some great elements in it. She'd probably like it. She
is definitely listening to this episode.
Good.
Not at this very second, but once it releases.
Right. What's her name?
Michael Ann.
Michael Ann, watch The Amazing Mr. X, riffed by Bridget and Mary Jo.
There it is. There it is, folks. But I want to say one more thing before we wrap up. The movie, many minutes ago, when I was talking about the first movie I saw, Mystery Science Theater film that I saw at the drive-in. Yes. I spent like the first 15 minutes of this episode looking through every single episode of Mystery Science Theater and found it. It is the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
That was my introduction to
MST.
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
What is it about? Because they go in your brain.
Swarms
and then they go
of
out.
Giant grasshoppers are headed straight for Chicago.
Right. Right. And Peter Graves is in it.
Yes, Peter Graves is also in it.
Yes. Okay, that's a great one. All right. Okay, so you liked it and you were hooked and it was at the drive-in. So
that was my first one.
You didn't make out at the driveway. You actually watched the movie.
No, I was still at the girls have cooties age.
Oh, right. Okay.
So because that happened I'm married now. Yes.
Michael Ann does not have cooties.
She does not. Officially. Good. We had her tested for cooties. She came back clean. Circle, dot. We're good to go. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because I was not making that up, even though I was contested.
Well, really leading right into that, some of these older films, especially The Amazing Mr. X, Sarah at RiffTrax, who is awesome to work with, she was generous enough to provide an exclusive 15% off code for site-wide for anything on RiffTrax website.
For Between the Cons listeners.
Yay!
Oh my gosh, that is wonderful. Yay! That is great. Yay, Sarah.
Yeah.
We have our own promo code.
Yeah, we're in the big time. We're getting
What's the promo code?
the Cons. CONS. So go on the site starting the code's valid Monday, February 27th through Sunday, March 12th. So it's anything site-wide, 15% off, excluding gift cards. We're on to your game, people. No gift cards.
Get The Amazing Mr. X coming soon. A very funny thing called Farm Family in Winter, which will be coming out soon. And a very funny short called The Maturing Female.
Interesting. Wow.
The funny bonus at the end. So.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Nice.
my gosh. And that website is rifftrax.com, RiffTrax as in x-ray.com. So y'all get on that and y'all support them. They do such a great job. And we're just so thankful that Miss Bridget agreed to be on the show with us today.
Absolutely. And be sure to go on and get on that Kickstarter. I mean, it's just by the time you listen to this, it would have been gone over, for it'll be have happened for a week so far. Go on there, check out what they've got. They've already announced 2 of the things they're doing. Samurai Cop for RiffTrax Live, which is going to be very interesting. And a secret one they're going to announce when they hit the goal. What's
the secret one, Bridget?
It's the life of Vince Lombardi.
I am all about that.
Yes.
So are we done? This was so fun.
We are, and we're so glad that you got to join in. We really are. Is there anything that the twins missed that our listeners need to go do, find, follow, etc.?
You go ahead and get that book on Tippi Hedren. It is good reading, and you kids will love it. The millennials will love the stories of movies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Anyway, no, it was a really good book.
Thanks to Bridget Nelson, obviously, for joining us for the episode. We really appreciate having you on the show. It's been a blast.
Thank you so much.
It was really, really fun. Thank you so much. I hope that I did. I hope I was good at being interviewed.
I think you got a career in comedy, kid. I think you're gonna get this.
God, gee, thanks.
But really quick, on our way out, if you're interested in sponsoring the show, check out our Patreon. It's like Kickstarter, but monthly. You can find that at betweenthecons.com/Patreon. And then Satchel, the podcast player, where you can tip and tweet while listening. And, of course, our Amazon link at the bottom of our website, where you shop Amazon just as normal. You just search with our bar. And then check out betweenthecons.com, where you can stream our episodes online. Link out to all our social media. If you like our theme music, check out Afixa. He's on Bandcamp. He makes all the sounds. And then make sure you guys tune in on Thursday, because we're going to be filling you in on the latest and greatest nerdy news in our Pineapple episode. And once again, go to rifftrax.com, rifftrax.com. Check out all of Bridget's stuff, all of the RiffTrax stuff. It's all great. And use the promo code CONS, C-O-N-S, for a 15% site-wide discount, excluding gift cards. And again, thank you so much, Bridget, for coming on the show. We
You're
loved
welcome.
having
You're
you.
all fine young men, and it was nice to spend some time with you.
Thank you.
Ditto. You are also a fine young man, and it was great spending time with you.
Exactly. Yes.
I can be anything I want to be.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, thanks everybody again for tuning in. Make sure you tune in on Thursday, and you guys have a great week.
Bye. Am I talking too much?